Welcome to Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. Coming up on the programme this week,
I went through depression, anxiety. I didn't know how to open up about it, even to my wife, and look back at those years where I really struggled with anxiety and depression, and the amount of people I know that have passed away from suicide. It makes it a massive thing for us. Just talk about life, talk about the struggles that we face, not only as professional rugby players, but also as fathers, as men in society. And, and if we can save that one person and impact that one person to make a positive change, then that was a massive for us. We've had a lot of people, men and women, come up and just say, hearing you talk about that has given me the courage to move forward with my life. If I didn't hear that, I was on the verge of, taking their lives.
The home of the UK's conversation about mental health. Welcome to episode 350. We got there, of Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. It is an absolute pleasure to have you with us for this historic Blow the Fanfare occasion. 350 episodes of Mental Health Monday. Wow, what a journey. Should we just crack on and carry on with some more conversations? Let's not get too carried away. I've been away the last couple of weeks. I say I've been away, I've not actually been anywhere. I've been working on a couple of other projects, which I will put links to in the podcast notes. The first was about birth trauma, which of course has got a big mental health angle. The aspect and experiences of women in particular who've gone through birth trauma, really difficult conversation. And I was working with my colleagues at Hits Radio to create a special program for that, featuring King of the Jungle Sam Thompson alongside his sister Louise. So I helped produce that program, and I'll put a link to that because it's a really important conversation in the chat. And I was also lucky enough to work on a project with the King's Trust for their Change a Girl's Life campaign. I'll put a link in that too, a really inspirational program, again with Hits Radio and my colleagues at KISS, to pull together some famous voices, but then some real life experiences as well. So those two projects have been the reason we've had a bit of a gap in terms of the podcast feed, but you can catch up with those. And yeah, really great listens. You can also check them out on the listening app Rayo. Onward to episode 350 of Mental Health Monday. And you know me, I like to use this podcast to normalise the conversation around mental health. One of the ways that does that most effectively is using other means to bring people into the conversation. And my guests on the programme this week are doing just that using the world of Rugby League. So 3 players, all born in New Zealand but representing Samoa, who spent their careers here in the UK playing Rugby League, are now coming together to set up their own organisation based on the fact that they've had their own experiences when it comes to mental health, but also that they've seen the need in the community to be able to share these stories and to give the opportunity for the community to respond back. The Talk Your Walk Foundation has just been launched, and I'm delighted to say we've got one of the founding members on the podcast today. They're doing some fantastic work in regard to different ages, different opportunities, group sessions, play sessions, rugby sessions, but also one-to-ones and opportunities around that too. And the Talk Your Walk Foundation, I think, are going to make a real difference, particularly in their community in Yorkshire. They're just getting set up, so they're looking for support. If you know a business who might be able to support this type of work, reach out to them. I'll put links in the podcast notes to where you can get in contact with them. But they've got a brilliant team, Becky and the gang, who are really doing their best to make a difference. So Talk Your Walk is about making a difference, but using the power of rugby league. If you've never watched a game of rugby league, that doesn't matter. This conversation transcends all of that. Well done to Suey and to Jesse for setting up Talk Your Walk alongside Quentin Laulu-Togaga'e. Now, Quentin is my guest, and he's going to be talking about where the project came from, his own experiences, and what he hopes it can achieve in the coming weeks and months.
So it started with 4 of us. So myself, Suey Matagi, Jesse Sene-Lefao, and Pete Matautia. We would often go to Costa Coffee for coffee, just to once a week, just to kind of review the game, talk about what we could do better from the weekend's game, because we all play for Castleford Tigers. On the odd occasion, Pete Matautia, he spoke up and he opened up about how we tried to commit suicide when he was younger, and how that was still affecting him to that day. And we didn't know that at the time, because most of the talks was, like I said, reviewing the game, banter, just how we talk with each other as a group. And yeah, just him opening up gave us the courage to open up ourselves, and we started opening up as a group about the struggles that we were going through, also the struggles that we were facing, would been through as well. So him opening up gave us the courage to open up, and that's pretty much how it started. And we were just thinking, with our platform as professional rugby players, why don't we start a podcast and pretty much just talk about life, talk about the struggles that we face, not only as professional rugby players, but also as fathers, as men in society. And, and if we can save that one person and impact that one person to make a positive change, then that was a massive for us.
When someone brings up a topic like that, it often gives permission, doesn't it, for you to then maybe talk about something that maybe you've gone through. When that was sort of thrown into the mix there, did that make you maybe look at things that had happened to you growing up or when you were
Yeah.
younger and then think, actually, there is maybe something in my past that I want to talk about?
Oh, definitely, definitely, and it's something that I held, for a long time. I grew up. My biological dad passed away when I was 6, and so for a long time, then my mum was working 2 to 3 jobs, trying to make ends meet, and it was up to myself and my older brother to look after my younger siblings. And for a long time, we had to do that. We had to cook for my brothers. We had to pack lunch while my mum went and looked for money to keep the electricity on. I mean, also, during my rugby career, I bombed 2 opportunities to set my family up financially and to kind of live my dream. And just down to my heart, to me not wanting to put the work in, it didn't happen. And I went through a long stage there where I went through depression, anxiety, and I didn't know how to open up about it, even to my wife. And we kind of look back at those years where I really struggled with anxiety and depression, and the amount of people that go through it as well. The amount of people I know that have passed away from suicide. Um, it makes it a massive thing for us.
Can I share, in terms of sort of growing up, but it's interesting they're talking about losing your dad because I know the communities, Polynesian communities, Australia, New Zealand, Southern Hemisphere communities, when they often have sort of very structured societies around sort of like the males being the alphas, if you like. And then, if you guys then go on to become rugby league, stars on the other side of the planet, it really plays into that thing, doesn't it? Of like the men go out there to sort of earn the money. Do you think there's a cultural thing that's going on there to a certain extent that maybe you think, well, I don't have permission to talk about that because we don't talk about that maybe within the community?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's a cultural thing. And when we do our workshops and we speak to a lot of the businesses in the UK, they talk about it as a cultural thing as well, or more generational thing. And in our culture, we're really traditional in terms of a lot of the men go out and get the money and try and bring the money in for the family, while the wives stay home and look after the kids and do all the chores in there. So and in terms of speaking up about your problems, that's something that we don't do in our culture. And as me growing up, I was fortunate to have a stepdad to come in and raise us. But I didn't have anyone that I felt that I could talk to about my struggles. And it's something that we go through in our culture where, um, you know, speaking up is a weakness. You know, if you have a problem and you speak up about it, it's a weakness. So you're better off keeping it inside. And so that's something that we grow up with, in our culture, and it's something that I grew up with. And now that I have kids myself, I don't want them to go through the same thing. And so I'm open about the things that I'm going through, just to show them that being vulnerable is normal.
What do people say? And you do sessions with people of all different ages, and the work you're doing will see you come face to face with many more. What's the reaction in the room when you guys start talking like rugby? Like you guys are big guys, like you professional athletes. You it's sort of like, wow, these guys look, just to be in the room with them is quite something. But then when you start talking about your deepest thoughts and feelings, that must completely sort of change the atmosphere within the room. What's that experience like the way you see it?
Yeah, it does. Like it's yeah, a lot of yeah, we get tarnished with this brush as rugby players where everyone thinks like we're these warriors that don't have any problems. We go out there for 80 minutes during the week and we try and bash each other. And so that's probably how we are in the real world, where we're just like everyone else. We have our struggles. We're human as well. And when we go into do our workshops, it's always a surprise to those that are in front of us, because when we start, we go straight to vulnerability. We talk about what we've been through. We go deep. There's like nothing's out of limits for us, and so that builds the connection and the trust. And then when we do talk about what we've been through and the struggles that we face, yeah, people like seem to open up because we're rugby players, and then we speak up about it. Yeah, it connects with a lot of people, and we get a lot of people opening up about what they go through and what they've been through as well.
Now, in terms of the people who would be in that room who are there because they're living in around West Yorkshire, they've seen you guys play. In terms of how many of those people would be in the room if you weren't rugby players? Like if it was just like a session put on by a local health organization, or it was a session put on by a local charity, some people would still come through the door and they might think that's appropriate to them. But you guys must have a draw to you that means that people are in that room who otherwise would never have showed up at a mental health event or gone to a mental health workshop or thought, you know what, I'll sit in a room and talk about my deepest thoughts and feelings with an unknown charity or a group that I never know. Yet when they see rugby players doing it, people they've seen out on the field that they've seen, crashing into guys for 80 minutes at a time, they suddenly go, oh, I can talk in that space. That must be a huge part of it.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. I guess so. But yeah, just because it's not normal for professional rugby players to come out and speak about their troubles and their struggles and what they've been through, talk about depression, talk about what vulnerability is. So it's not normal for people to hear rugby players come out and do that publicly. And so I guess yeah, you're right. When we do go into businesses, we go into schools, we go into prisons, and they hear that rugby players are coming to talk about mental health, I guess it does draw people in. If it wasn't rugby players, so I guess that's maybe it's a good thing that we do draw people in through our rugby connections and our rugby background. But I guess it's trying to get more people, you know, coming to whether it's our workshops or you have Andy's Man Club who are doing a great job as well. Just any mental health organization that can help spread the word is massive.
Now, I'm speaking as somebody who grew up watching Wigan. Before they were Wigan Warriors, when they were just good old fashioned Wigan, Viga Twigamala, that era of talent. And I know what rugby league fans are like, and they are, there's the M62 corridor.
Yeah.
Then there's many more females watching it now, but there's a lot of men, a lot of working class guys who maybe haven't been like university educated, certainly haven't grown up in a world where they've been encouraged to talk about their mental health. And obviously you guys are doing this out of, Castleford and Sheffield, West Yorkshire, where those communities are still there as well. How important is it that actually that community, working class communities in the north of England, but anywhere, get the opportunity to talk about their mental health? Because I think a lot of the time people think, oh, mental health, and it's all very sort of like it's a little bit, oh, let's think about well-being and let's, spend lots of money on, you know, filtering drinks and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas actually that people, particularly men, sitting down in like working men's clubs, social clubs within their community and talking, that's huge, isn't it? In terms of men who you would otherwise think would be quite hard to reach. But actually rugby league and people like yourself have an ability to reach those sorts of people in a way that other charities don't, other organizations might struggle to, or maybe some of this more like lifestyle-y content just doesn't connect with.
Oh, it is massive. And yeah, I guess rugby league is it's a community sport. You know, your community get behind you. Your you know, and when we talk about when we go into the communities and we talk, it's 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 a good feeling when you open up and then you have people opening up as well. We've had a lot of talks where we've gone in and you can see some guys and even women being staunch before we talk because I guess it's them seeing rugby guys coming in and talking about mental health, and so they're a bit standoffish to start with. But obviously, like I said, when we go in, we go deep straight away and with the struggles that we've faced, and then that builds the connection, that builds the trust, and us being vulnerable. Just you can see their shoulders just relaxing, and so it's good to see the start on them like being staunch and you know not being like not being happy us being there, but once it gets to the end, a lot of we get a lot of people opening up about what they've been through and like us just being in helping them with their journeys as well.
You got Talk Your Walk, which is sort of just sort of launching, but you guys have been in this space for a long time. Just tell us about sort of the next steps for the organization. What are the things you're looking to do now? Who are you looking to connect with? What are those things that you're going to be aiming for over the next like 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, so what we're trying to do now is we're trying to partner with businesses or get businesses to donate just so we can go out there and do the workshops and the programs with schools, prisons, businesses, um, and that's pretty much what it is we want to partner with companies or we want companies to donate or anyone to donate just so we can go and save lives, and that's our biggest mission. And when you look at the stats, around 7,000 people die from suicide in the UK, and so that's around 145 a week, and 75% are men, 25% are women, and those stats are crazy, when you hear those stats. And our mission is to try and reduce those numbers, and hopefully one day we get those numbers to zero, you know, and um, and that's what we're trying to do. And when businesses come in and join us with our mission, they'll be joining a foundation where we try and change people's habits to positive habits. We try and put purpose in front of them because without purpose, we feel like they have no direction. And then all we do is try and create positive habits. And to kind of put us in a nutshell, we help people become the best version of themselves, and that's our mission. It's something that we're passionate about, and it's something that we feel like if we can kind of help that one person, that will have a domino effect on everyone else.
I know you're looking at things like speaking with young people as well. Obviously, you've got to sort of cater the conversation appropriately, don't you, to young people? Is that something that you guys are keen to do to sort of show that you can have this conversation that's not an anti-suicide conversation with a group of like 10 to 14-year-olds, but like
Yeah.
that conversation might come later on. You've got to obviously adapt your message appropriately.
Yeah, so just with the young kids, it's not about the suicide and that. It's about having the courage to speak up if they feel like something's wrong. And so we do a lot of games with the younger kids, and we try and build in leadership. We try and build in teamwork, team building, but we also try and help them understand that if you do have a problem, it's okay to speak up about it. If you lose, that's okay to lose. What can you learn from the loss, and what can you learn from the negative situations that are happening in your life, and how can you change them into positives? And so for the kids, it's not about talking about suicide and mental health. It's more about giving them the tools to help if any of that does come about, the negative thinking, um, you know, the having a problem if you're struggling and talking. So it's all about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And so the kids are different. Our approach is different to the kids than it is with the adults.
Um, what's the best piece of feedback that you've had in any of your sessions that someone said to you afterwards about the impact that it's had on them?
Um, I think that whenever we get feedback, the ones that hit us the most are the ones that come up to us and say that we've saved their lives. and we've had that a lot. We've had a lot of people, men and women, come up or even message us, just say, "Oh, hearing you talk about that um, has given me the courage to move forward with my life." If I didn't hear that, I was on the verge of taking their lives. We play touch every Saturday morning, and it's a way to bring the community together through touch rugby and also being active. They bring their kids along as well on a Saturday morning, and then after touch rugby, we have a coffee with the parents. And we've had two people already say, if it wasn't for touch rugby, um, you know, they were pretty close you know, to taking their own lives, and that feedback is why we do it. And hearing that is why we started it. And yeah, that's kind of like, we get loads of different feedbacks, but those are the ones that stand out to us.
That's huge, that, isn't it? Because I often think, from a point of view of somebody who's going through that, like, that person might not have connected with anything else. They might have seen a sign, or they may have seen like an internet post about a charity, or they may have seen like a helpline, or they may have heard a podcast, and just none of it quite cut through. And yet the thing that you did, and the thing that you're doing and continuing to do, was the thing that made them think, you know what, I'll go to that, or I'll get my foot through the door. That resonates with me enough. And for some people it's knitting, and for some people, it's like five-a-side football, but for some people, it'll be rugby league. So important, isn't it, to provide these opportunities? We talk about rugby league being a community sport. If that is the thing within the community that pulls people together, then of course rugby league should be able to play a part in it.
Yeah, 100%. The biggest thing, and I always talk about my career and, reflecting on my playing career. And the biggest thing that I take out of rugby is what you learn from it, and like the connections that you build. And you see the rugby league community get behind so many people who struggle, and so many families who go through problems. You see the rugby community get behind them. And um, I feel like the more people play rugby, the better the world will be, just because of the values that you learn and the people that you meet. And I truly believe that, and which is why we push touch rugby, which is non-contact, because we feel like girls, boys, women, men, if they come and play and, learn the values and just have fun, we can build connection, and, yeah, we can kind of make a better world of it, I think.
Brilliant stuff. Just before you go, I've just got to mention the sort of the geography of this one. Just explain to us and our listeners about where you and the guys are from, and sort of like, because you guys are like doing this, but you're not doing this like in the place where you grew up. You're doing this like thousands of miles from home. Just explain a little bit of the geography, because the stats are mind blowing.
So, so we're all born in New Zealand, but Samoan parents. So our heritage is Samoan, and we're really proud of our heritage. And Samoa is a little island near Fiji. So when I explain it, everyone knows what everyone's heard of Fiji. So it's near Fiji. So that's about, when we go home, it's about a 40-hour flight um, back to the little island of Samoa. So yeah, home is a long, long way away, but yeah, there's a lot of Polynesians in England, which we're trying to connect with as well, to try and push the mission. And but it's good to go into schools and go into businesses and teach our culture, because I forgot to mention that when we do our workshops, we implement a lot of our cultural activities, a lot of the songs that we learn as kids, and we teach a lot of the haka as well. And so when we teach that, we see the UK community liven up when we when we get them involved. It's rewarding.
No, absolutely. And there's some brilliant, and I'll post some links actually in the podcast notes to some of the videos you've done from the launch. Just the hacker has this ability, doesn't it? It's like quite a mesmerizing thing to watch. And I think, um, as it from an England rugby point of view, it was always seen as like this adversarial thing, but it's much more about like respect and community and establishing an identity, isn't it? Rather than this thing that I think we associate it with you guys are trying to scare us before the rugby game.
Yes.
There's an element of that, I'm sure, with the faces that get pulled and so on and so forth. But actually, that cultural thing is when you learn about somebody's culture, it gives you a greater sense of understanding about what other people are maybe like, where they're coming from. And I think we don't have enough of that, do we now, where we see people as being different. But then we suddenly then understand what that's like. And then food, it can be a big part of music, can be a big part of that as well. That's a big part as well of that sense of community.
Oh, massively, massively. And that's the reason why we feel when we do our workshops, we implement a lot of our cultural stuff because our culture is about family. Ainga, we get everyone to say ainga, which means family in our culture. And our culture is about bringing everyone together through music, through dancing, through haka, through food. And we know, that the UK community, they buy into it as well, and it's about connection, about trust. And so, our culture, we implement it a lot in our workshops, and the UK community love it.
When I was growing up, and I say Viga Twigamaula was the bit. He came and did our presentation at school. Yeah, he was a giant of a guy, the nicest guy. He was such a nice guy. But to us, when he walked into the room, it was like the closest thing we'd seen to that was like a WWF wrestler, like. But it's interesting that, but kids growing up now will see Moana is a good example of Polynesian culture, which is introduced at it was much more about the music and the culture and the sort of the body art and all that kind of thing as well. But the more we learn about these cultures and then we meet people from those cultures, it makes such a big difference to just understanding that the world's out there. So that when you hear about another culture, you don't instantly think, oh, what's all that about? You then think, oh, well, I met those people from that other culture and now I love that thing that we do, or we had a great event, or I now eat the food, or we've got friendships, or, they saved my life. It's so huge, isn't it, to have that, it's a big world, but it can feel a lot smaller if you want it to.
Yeah, 100%. And it's always the other rewarding thing is when we do our camps and we get the children, they learn a lot of our songs, our dances, and then we get them to lead the haka as well. So when their parents come and pick them up, the children are leading the haka. And it's always rewarding as well when the parents message you and they say, oh, my child can't stop doing the haka at home. It's just trying to teach me how to do it. And so, and it's always, it's inspiring, and I love it when I see the UK community get involved and buy into the culture stuff because, that's something that I grew up with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Talkyourwalk.co.uk. You're also looking for businesses to partner with the work that you're doing as well. There's loads of information on the website about what you're doing and how to get in contact. So, Q, thank you so much for your time today. We wish you all the best with the project in terms of its rolling out and where it moves to in the next 6 to 12 months and then beyond. The fact that it's saving lives already tells us everything we need to know about the quality of the work you're doing. So, thank you for speaking to us, and we wish you all the best.
No, thank you for having me. Appreciate your time, man.
I hope you've enjoyed this week's podcast. Thanks for checking out Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Mick Coyle. You can also find me, Mick Coyle, on Facebook as well. Don't forget, if you want to speak to somebody about your mental health, you can do so. The Samaritans, free to call on 116 123. You can find mental health services where you are. Just look for the Hub of Hope. Type in your postcode. It'll find those mental health services close to you. And for support in a crisis, you can text SHOUT to 85258. That's if you're experiencing a personal crisis, you're unable to cope and need support. Shout to 85258. That's a text line. Do get involved in those services. In an absolute emergency, always remember the number to call is 999. Thanks for downloading the podcast this week. We'll be back next week with more Mental Health Monday.